Why South Sudan? An Every Village podcast where we answer questions about the world's youngest nation. Bonus episode. The question of the day is, why is it such a big deal for South Sudan to be in the Olympics? Hey everyone, this is Tiana Johnston and I'm the host of this podcast called Why South Sudan? And what better to talk about South Sudan than the Olympics?
Woohoo! I love sports.
Yes, and we have Andrew Brown here in studio with us. Very exciting.
I've been watching a lot of Olympics, so
yes.
I'm definitely qualified to talk about this.
Okay, I'm going to actually ask a question because I just learned this recently from my husband. How often are the Olympics? Like how many years between?
Well, the Summer Olympics are every 4 years. The Winter Olympics are every 4 years. And for many years, they were the same year. And then I don't remember exactly what year, but they alternated them. So now they're every 2 years.
Yes, that's what I learned. Because I was like, oh, every 4 years is Olympics. And my husband was like, actually.
Yeah.
So I did get to learn that.
But I like the Summer Olympics a lot more. I mean, the winter, there's some cool things, but I don't know, being in Houston, I can't relate that much.
That's true.
To Winter Olympics.
I mean, both are like incredible skills.
They are.
I mean, even to do anything on snow.
Yeah,
that's
frightening.
True. That's frightening. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Or on the ground in like tumbling or water, Olympics. Okay, but today we're going to be talking about South Sudan being in the Olympics in 2024, which is huge.
It is huge.
It is massive. So, yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, you and I were talking about this and we're like, hey, let's do a bonus episode. This is worth it. This is newsworthy. In fact, I've heard from so many different donors about it. And
me too.
It's funny because, normally South Sudan's not in the news. And if it is in the news, it's almost always negative stuff.
Very
and
true.
This is one of the first times in my career at Every Village that I've been getting consistent positive news loops on South Sudan, which is really, really exciting. And so we decided, you know what, let's do a bonus. So here you guys go. It is a huge deal that South Sudan's in the Olympics this year. If you haven't heard it, hopefully this is informative. If you have read a little bit and you've heard, we've talked about on this podcast a whole lot. South Sudan gained independence as their own nation in 2011. And so before that, they were part of Sudan. So there was no South Sudan in any Olympics. And just due to all the years of war, there weren't South Sudanese that were competing in the Olympics under the Sudanese flag. So there were no native South Sudanese in the Olympics. Then 2011 rolls around, and it still took them quite a while as a nation to be approved as part of the International Olympic Committee as a nation, recognized nation. So the 2012 Olympics, they still weren't recognized. So they did allow, I believe it was one South Sudanese athlete was allowed to compete in 2012, but under they have basically a refugee team. Mm-hmm. And so they competed not under the flag of South Sudan. And so that was, I think it was a runner. It was a marathoner. That's what it was. And I think he ended up finishing 47th or something like that. And so that I remember that, and that was exciting. I was working, here obviously then, and that was really special. But that was one off. Then 2016, or they got approved by the IOC as a recognized nation in 2015. So by the 2016 Olympics in Rio, they were recognized, but they didn't have any athletes in the whole country that qualified under the Olympic standards. But they were given 3 automatic qualified positions just because they were a new nation. So these athletes didn't qualify under normal standards. And so they had 2 men and 1 woman that were part of track, and none of them medaled. But of course, they represented their nation for the first time, which was really exciting. But they were one-off individuals. Then in 2020 Olympics in Tokyo, which actually happened in 2021, but they call it the 2020 Olympics, South Sudan sent 2 athletes, both track as well, men, and that was it. So in 2024, and again, those were automatic qualifiers. 2024 was the first time this nation has ever had a team qualify for the Olympics, and any athlete qualify on their own bearing. South Sudan they were the only African nation to represent the continent in the Olympics this year because they won the Africa bracket for the Olympic qualifications.
That's incredible.
Which is incredible on its own. So that's just an amazing thing. And it's just something, I don't know, it makes me emotional thinking about, because I think about the inspiration that the Olympics are to so many small nations, developing nations. You know, the United States, you know, a lot of Americans like the Olympics. I love watching the Olympics, but we're used to dominating. We've got all the money, all the athletes, all the, you know, whatever. And it's just another thing for us. We all have all the pro sports leagues. Like, they just take time out of their busy professional lives to do this. But it's not the case for so many other nations. I mean, I just think about this year with, you know, the women's 100 meter dash, and, you know, St. Lucia had their first ever Olympic medal. And like, they showed, you know, pictures of her returning to St. Lucia, and just like, she's a hero, just amazing. And that's the kind of thing that these athletes are. And I know that, you know, when the South Sudanese basketball team qualified, they flew to Juba, the capital, and there was this huge, thousands of people that were at the airport. And, you know, you and I have flown in that airport many times. Yes. And they don't, there's really no blockade to just walk out. There's tons of people walking around on the airstrip. Yes. in the international airport. But you can imagine, like, thousands of people there. Wow. Just like cheering, and like, that's just an emotional thing. So just the fact that they're in the Olympics is so exciting to me. But then you start to learn their individual stories and how it even came to pass, and it's that much more amazing. For those of you that are sports fans, NBA fans, you'll probably know the name Manute Bol. He's, you know, was the first South Sudanese in the NBA. He was 7'6" or 7'7", and played, I think, in the 80s and in the 90s. I remember him playing, and very, very tall, obviously, but very, very skinny. And he was just, you know, picked up because of his height. And he had a solid career, and so, you know, everybody knows Manute Bol that follows the NBA. He's actually from not far from a wheel where we work, one of our areas. And Manute Bol, sadly, you know, after his NBA career, he continued to go back to South Sudan and do some humanitarian work in his own nation. And sadly, he developed a disease from one of those visits and passed away a few years ago. But his son, Bol, I believe is his name, is a basketball player now. So that's him. But then probably the most successful NBA player that was South Sudanese is Luol Deng. And he played for the Chicago Bulls for many years, and then played for the Los Angeles Lakers. And I don't remember whether he won an NBA championship with the Lakers, but he might have. But anyway, he was an all-star, was a really strong player. He played at Duke before the NBA. And so Luol Deng retired a handful of years ago. I don't remember, maybe 8 or so years ago. And in 2019, Luol Deng recognized he had a vision to bring basketball to this nation. It doesn't just have to be for the one-off refugee that made it to the UK or the America and was able to develop, but why not our nation now? But there's no money in that nation for this type of thing. And so Luol Deng funded it exclusively from his own pocket. And this guy has spent millions of dollars to try to develop a basketball program in the nation. And I just respect that so much. And his brother's helping him with it. And what did they do? I mean, they just started going out and trying to find players, you know, and there's a lot of young men that have grown up playing soccer. That's obviously a very common sport there. But even soccer in South Sudan, you're talking about, they're playing on dirt most of them don't have cleats. You know, they're just,
a lot of times they don't have the ball.
They don't even have the ball.
It's just like rolled up cloth.
Right, yeah. And so, you know, eventually they may be fortunate enough to get a ball, and some of them go and get cleats, and they do have leagues, and they travel around. It's a big deal there, but there's no grass, you know. So that's the environment that they're coming from. Well, but they're so tall, and so many of them can be incredible athletes if given that opportunity. And so Luol Deng started recruiting them and developing. And that was 2019. Today's 2024. So that you put that in perspective, you know, that's only 5 years ago when he started this program for the nation, and they qualified for the Olympics. And I was reading some of the stories. There's a 17-year-old who was on the team this year named Kaman Malawach, and he's 17 years old. The first time he'd ever seen a basketball was 4 years ago. Wow. And he's playing on the Olympic team. I'm just amazing to see. And then you throw in the fact that where do they train? Well, there is not a single indoor basketball facility for these players in their whole country. You know, even Juba does not have it. I saw a picture of the basketball court that they played on in Juba, and it's just, I mean, it would be a rough neighborhood basketball court in the United States. So all their training is outside the country. They have to travel outside the country to train. And we're just thinking about that. I mean, again, the cost that comes with that, Luol Deng funding it out of his own pocket, and, you know, bringing these young men out. It's just an amazing story. It is really like a modern day Jamaica bobsled team story, and I wouldn't be surprised if someday there's a movie about it. So
Oh, I hope so.
I love that. And then of course they became so well known over the last few weeks during the Olympics here, because in the friendlies leading up to the Olympics starting, the basketball teams would play just friendly matches just to get ready. And South Sudan ended up playing the United States. And, this was just a few weeks ago from when we're recording this. But, I remember getting a text message during the game from somebody saying, what's going on? South Sudan was up by 14 at halftime over the United States. And keep in mind, this United States team is one of the most decorated teams, really probably since the Dream Team back, in the 90s. It is an amazingly stacked team with, some of the best NBA players of all time on this team, and they're expected to just, trounce their way to the gold medal. Well, at halftime, South Sudan was up by 14. In the third quarter, it got closer, but in the fourth quarter, South Sudan hit a shot to take the lead, and with 8 seconds left, LeBron James hit a layup to take the lead, and South Sudan had the final shot, and they missed it, but they lost by 101 to 100. Which is just an amazing, amazing thing. And, all of the Americans were just saying that they were taken by surprise by, how these young guys who really haven't played basketball very long were able to compete with them. There's not a single current NBA player on South Sudan's team. There are a few guys that that grew up in the United States, and they played in the NBA for a little bit, and they're no longer there. So there's a little bit of that, but these are underdogs to the extreme. And then they went into the Olympic matches, and their first game was against Puerto Rico, and they dominated and won that game by a lot. And so not only did they make it to the Olympics, but they won their first game. Their second game was against the United States officially, and they lost that one, but still competed hard. And I watched a good portion of that game, and no shame certainly in losing to the United States. And so they went into their third game with the chance to advance, which was just been amazing. And they ended up playing Serbia and took them down to the wire. It was a pretty close game. And Serbia has the reigning MVP, 3-time MVP, Nikola Jokic. And so Serbia is a very strong team themselves. And the fact that South Sudan competed that way was just, it made their nation proud and positive. And so we wanted, you and I talked about this while they were still in the Olympics. We wanted to wait till they were done, just because if they kept winning, it would be an even more amazing story. But still, just to kind of wrap a bow on it, just like think about this. Let's applaud these young men and recognize it's going to be a story that won't end here. Mm-hmm. It will give dreams and visions and opportunity and open doors for future young men and even women in this nation in the years to come. And that's so similar to what we're trying to do at Every Village. And obviously, basketball is not a spiritual journey here, but it is nation building, and we're behind that. So anything that is involved in building up a nation is prosperity, and sports is at the center of that. And sports also brings a nation together in unity in a way, or it can, in a way that few things can. And so you see people from all over the nation with a national pride, and that's what they need, because right now there's so much tribalism in the nation. But for these young men that come from different tribes and backgrounds, and for the nation to rally behind them and say, this is our team, our nation's team. But it also shows you what the world thinks about South Sudan as well, because in their first game against Puerto Rico, of course, they play the national anthems, and they started, I don't know if you saw this, Tiana, but they played the wrong national anthem.
Oh, no.
They didn't even have South Sudan's national anthem correct.
I missed it.
And so they cut it off after about 30 seconds when they realized, and then they scrambled and they ended up finding it. But I mean, that's what the world thinks of South Sudan. They don't know South Sudan. They don't, and yet I love it. Is this is just the stepping stone. This is the first step. And so I talk all the time about seeing a different future where kids in South Sudan today grow up in a world different from their parents, and that's the same thing for these kids today. I mean, they're now going to be rooting for these young men that were on the first national team, and they're going to be heroes and thought of for years and years to come. So it was a story that was too good to not be told, and so we wanted to give you a bonus episode. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, just to imagine if they're this good in 5 years, what is it going to be in 4 more years?
That's right.
For
sure. I agree. I mean, God has naturally gifted them with the physique that they could become incredible with consistent training and the access to resources and equipment and all that. And so who knows, but the sky's the limit for sure.
Maybe every village we could have a sports wing. Just kidding. All right. Well, today was a lot of fun. You lit up. We're talking about two of your favorite things.
That's right.
Sports, stats, and South Sudan.
That's three, but.
Oh, that's true. Well, sports, stats. I put them together.
Okay, well. Yeah.
Oh, that was so much fun.
Yeah.
Well, we're so proud of South Sudan, and yeah, it's just amazing. So this was fun.
Can we sing the national anthem now?
Go ahead.
I don't know the words, sorry.
I don't either.
It is in English, so I should, but I don't.
I know, we should actually practice it. Maybe the next episode.
There you go.
All right, well, thanks so much. We invite everybody back to the next episode as we answer the next question. All right, take care.